once more to our English first additional language lessons by Miss Lechuti, and we are still concluding our poetry lessons. We are going to look into this poem written by Mr. Hopkins titled Inversnaid. Now, the poem Inversnaid, the poem was written in 1881 while Hopkins, who was ministering at that time, was on rest days. He paid a hurried visit to the little village of Inversnaid, which is the name of the place, near the shore of Loch, if not Lomond, in the Scottish Highlands, and was inspired to write a poem. So the word Inversnaid is actually the name of a high field or high valley placed near the place called Lomond in the Scottish Highlands. The poem was written at the height of Industrial Revolution. As I have said in one when we're doing various poems, that it's important to understand the background of what informed the poet to write that particular piece. Now, it was written at the height of Industrial Revolution, where the world was changing from using the traditional methods of living, such as agricultural methods, to use the modern day ways of living. Like today, we are experiencing the fourth industrial revolution, if not the fifth industrial revolution, where you can compare the life that we are living today to the life that our foreparents lived. It's quite different due to the fourth industrial revolution, meaning the change in technology, the change in means of trade and exchange of living, which are mostly influenced by modernization theorem, if not a modernization theory, that which seeks the use of a technology to enhance our lives. And in the same breath, or on the same breath, with the implementation of fourth industrial revolution, the counterpart of it all is that it comes at the cost of nature, as we know that the more we use, we consume. Or we use gadgets, or we use transport, we tend to also disturb the natural flow of nature and destabilize nature in a way, such as I'm talking about destroying the ozone layer because of the carbon dioxide and all the other things that come as a package of transformation from traditional methods of living to the fourth industrial revolution. So that is the important background that you need to understand for the poem Inversnaid to make sense to you. Now, at the height of the it should be the first industrial revolution because it was still in the 1880s in England, at Scotland, and the poet makes a prophetic, rather, if not a present appeal that such places, which in this case we are talking about Inversnaid, should not be tampered with, but rather be left as it is, even though the world was changing, right? And now quickly going into the structure of the poem, Inversnaid is a four-stanza poem, okay, that is divided into sets of 4 lines. Remember, the sets of 4 lines, we call them a quatrain, which follow a very simple rhyme, that is A A B B C C D D, and then that is called a sprung rhyme. Sprung rhyme is normally associated by with Hopkins' writing. It means when I say A A B B, it means the last words of 2 consecutive lines rhyme with each other. Okay, and then Hopkins' language can be difficult to fathom, if not to understand. Mostly when you read the poem, it does not make sense to you, but however, I will try to simplify it for you and show you how he borrowed dialects from Scottish language to form new words, and as a way to appreciate nature, that is which the Highfield and the fast flowing river in the landscape of Inversnaid. So Hopkins' language can be difficult to fathom as he was constantly experimenting with words. In this poem, he is infatuated by the Scottish dialect, and he uses the letter R to form alliterative sounds. Remember, alliteration is repetition of consonants at the beginning of the word to form a musical, if not a lyrical, lines in the poem. So he borrowed some of the dialects, which means a language dialects from the Scottish, because he was infatuated by the Scottish language, right? And then we are going to see a repetition of R. It means that there's an extensive use of alliteration in this poem with the effectiveness to appreciate nature. And then he also further uses the letter R, as I've said, to form alliterative sounds throughout the poem. He forms new words that are not necessarily in the dictionary, okay? Words such as darksome in the first line, words such as roll rock. These are words that are not necessarily in the dictionary, but in the context of the poem, they make sense. Remember, he formed them because he was influenced by the Scottish language. Now, with that said, I've already mentioned that some words are not necessarily in the dictionary, but however, the purpose of doing that was to fully capture the essence and the energy of a stream. Here, the poem is all about the energetic stream. Remember, I said Inversnaid is a place in the highlands of Scotland. Now we are going to see how Hopkins appreciated the moving stream, which he referred to as a burn in this poem, B-U-R-N. We are going to see that in line 1 and 2. In the poem, racing down the hillside, going over waterfall, and then passing across a dark pool surrounded or shaded by the great highlands that surround the stream. The tone is joyful and appreciative because indeed he appreciates nature. However, there is that contrast where and a convergence where the tone changes to that of despair, hopelessness, and to that of quizzical towards the end, where he questions why should we tamper with nature, or what will the world be like if indeed we were to tamper with nature. The tone shifts again in line 6 and 7, where he explains the darkness of the surroundings, which are no longer nice and beautiful, which brings forth the mood of despair and loneliness. And then towards the end, he makes a plea, a humble plea that is so passionate to show how passionate and how rooted his or how deep his love and admiration for nature is. He makes that plea to say, can we let nature be as it is? So indeed, we are just going to learn how Hopkins stood in the highlands of Scotland to appreciate the stream and the movement of water around the stream, not only the stream, but also its surrounding. Now let us delve into the poem. Now for just a few seconds, just look into this image, right? And you see this water rushing down, flowing down, and here are the rocks, and here are the plantation around the highland of the stream. And then this stream is flowing as in when it flows, here it is passes through the rocks where it is going to land now here in a pool of water or a river. This should be the imagery that is in your mind for this poem to make sense to you, because he is going to explain exactly the movement of this water, explain as well as the surroundings, coupled with, I would say, emotive words that rather paint that not only the movement of water, but also the atmosphere. What kind of an atmosphere does this movement of water brings, as well as the message embedded within such a vivid imagery or representation of the movement of water, bearing in mind that he is doing all of this in an appreciative tone to appreciate the beauty of nature that is what Inversnaid. Now, the first line, it reads as follows: this darksome bun, horseback brow, right? This, it refers to the stream Inversnaid. Darksome, the structure like words handsome, but it means what? It means darkness, right? The word darksome actually refers to darkness. Remember, we said he borrowed some words from the Scottish dialects to form compound words that are not there in the dictionary. And then the word burn, in the context of this poem, it refers to a brook, if not a stream. Remember, think of the picture that you've just seen. So we are talking about a stream in the Scottish what? Dialect. So in a Scottish dialect or Scottish language, the word stream is referred to what? As a burn. It is also how dark and perhaps gloomy. Now, remember, when you see the word dark, it brings element of gloominess or the mood of somberness, right? The color of a horseback brown. Now, it means that the color of the stream or the water is compared to the back of a horse, which can be slightly brown, right? And then we also have alliteration here because we've got B here, we've got B here, and then we've got B here, right? To say the burn, which is the stream, is compared metaphorically to the color of a horse, which can be brown, which is now assonance, to say that the effectiveness, therefore, is to show the color of the water in the stream is compared to, not to say the water is necessarily dark. Remember, it's surrounded by the shades of vegetations around the stream where the water flows. Correct? It says that he's rolling rock high road roaring down. Now his is personification. He has given the stream the human quality, right? To say that the stream is more like of a person, giving the stream a human quality, because he's going to say he's rolling rock high road roaring down. Now the brook is personified in this next line, described as a horse. The speaker refers to it as a male and described his roll rock high roaring down. The same way we spoke about the darksome, here we are going to speak about roll rock, which means that the metaphor, which is a metaphor, the path of a river, is like a highway where the rocks have been what? The rocks have been rolled. So it says his roll rock high road roaring down. Now the lion roars, right? And then when the lion roars, it's a sound that is produced by the lion. But in this case, it's not the lion that is roaring down, but rather what? The sound of the moving water going what? Down. The first and foremost, this movement of the water is compared to a horse. We know how a horse can be so fast running. That means the water is how energetic and is moving at a high speed. Hence, it is not just flowing down, but it is how roaring down. Just to emphasize how the sound that is produced by this energetic, frantic moving water moving downward from the high field of the highlands, now moving down what? The rocks, passing by the rocks. Now, not only is the water roaring down in high speed, now in coop and in comb the fleece of his foam. Remember, it's flowing from the high field up down to the what? To the lake or the river. And then it says that here the poet used metaphor. The water at the bottom of the waterfall is held as if in a basket, meaning what? In coop. It means that enclosed like a chicken coop, or alternatively what you can also refer to it is it's something that is enclosed in a hollow or an enclosure, right? And in comb, the word comb, it means what? A free flow. The fleece of his foam. Again, we are going to see the stream being personified, giving human qualities, right? Now, you look into the word fleece. The word fleece refers to the wool of a sheep, which is soft and fairy-like in texture, much like the foam of water. Now, when the water lands down, it forms a foam. That foam is also compared to a fleece. It means that the texture of that water or the foam is soft, more like a wool of a sheep. And then with comb, it means that that water is flowing how? Freely. And then in coop, it means that in an enclosed manner, as if in a circular manner. That is how the water flows. And then indeed, when it gets there, we also see assonance, which gives the speed of the galloping water as free and unrestrained as a horse. Remember, in the beginning and the opening lines, the water was compared to a galloping horse, to emphasize the energetic speed that which the water from the stream is flowing from the high field downwards to the we can say to the pool or to a river. Now, the very same water that has been flowing energetically, it says here, it flutes and low to the lake falls home. There's a musical instrument called a flute. A flute can also refer to an opening. It means now when the water gets down from the stream, it gets down, now it creates an opening, but also bearing in mind that a fluid can also means what? Can also refer to making a whistling or a sound like a fluid, which is a musical instrument, as I've said, that which also refers to the sound that is created by water when rushing what? Downhill, right? And then in low to the lake falls home. So where is this water going to? Where is its home? Its home is what? Where? The lake down there, because remember it has been flowing from the high field. Now it is landing home in the what? In the lake. As I've already stated, that the poem has used an extended use of alliteration with the different sounds, and then here we have F, we also have F here, and then alliteration, the sound of the flowing water from line 3 and 5, now it flutes, right? And then remember, let us take it far deeper to say, when you listen to a flute, it has that I would say a melodious sound to it, which also couples with the fact that Hopkins uses such alliterative sound to further appreciate the movement of water and ultimately appreciate Inversnaid, which therefore says that he was drawn to nature, and this is a joyful tone that appreciates the beauty of this. The beauty of this stream flowing down the rocks in the Inversnaid, which indeed is placed in the Highfield of what of Scotland. And then again we've got assonance here. Assonance again deals with sounds. Remember, these are sound devices. Alliteration and assonances are sound devices. Alliteration as a repetition of consonants, and mostly at the beginning of the word, such as we have F here, and then assonance, it's also repetition of vowels like your a, e, o, u in the middle of the words. Now, when a poet uses such sound devices, it is mostly used to create a lyrical sound in the poem, but further, it is also used that lyrical sound to further appreciate the beauty of nature. So for one, you can just look at the stream, it is just water flowing. But to Hopkins, not only is it flowing, he was able to capture also the sound that is created by the movement of this water, and as well as to go further to appreciate and to also note the shape that is formed by this water, as in when it moves downwards to the lake, where it finds what it finds home. It means where it finds home, mostly when you go home to do what? To rest. So now it is resting, because at the beginning the stream was quite energetic, moving down the rocks compared to a horse. Now it is slowly changing the tempo of the poem, as well as the speed, and now to a musical like a fluid. Normally we listen to a music that is to serenade one, to calm one down, and then that sound connects now to the idea of the water changing its movement, with no longer speeding, now finding its home where down at the lake. Now in this line there's an interesting use of a metaphor. The same water that now is finding home at the lake, it says that a wind puff bonnet of fawn froth. We are still referring to the very same water in the stream that was flowing down. Now it's finding home at the lake. Once it's resting, the writer, if not Hopkins, uses a metaphor here to compare the water. Or before that, let us appreciate the adjective that is used to describe the shape of the froth. It appears as a woman's bonnet. This can be a woman's bonnet, right? Which might if the wind were to puff it up. Metaphor: the foam on the water is like lace on the edges of the bonnet. Now the foam is resting down at the lake. Remember the line before this one. Now it looks like a wind puff bonnet, not only a bonnet but a bonnet that was blown by the wind, hence it says wind puff. Bear in mind that Hopkins formed his own compound words by borrowing dialects from Scottish. I'm repeating that. Of a fawn froth. Now, the fawn froth now is what? The color. It means the appearance of water at the lake. It looks like the foam that is there, because the water has been rushing down from the highlands, from the highlands, yes, to the lake. When it's resting, forming a foam. That foam looks like a bonnet that was blown by the wind. And however, not only does it look like that metaphorically, also he went further to describe it in terms of color, to say it is a fawn and froth. The foam itself is the color of a fawn's fur, which is indeed how? Light brown. This hints at the nature, pardon me, the rest. This hints at the nature of the riverbed and the materials that are turned up as the water barrels down its path. Now, this water is not blue. One can ask himself or herself, why is the water not blue? Remember the first picture that I said you must look into that picture for a second. That highland is surrounded by vegetation. So where the stream flows, which is, remember in the context of the poem, the stream is referred to as a burn, because in Scottish dialects, it means a burn means what? A stream. Where the stream flows, not only do we have rocks, but we have vegetation, which means what? Are plants. So as and when the water flows or rushes down with such energy as indicated in line 1, it comes up with we can say maybe soil or other materials that are surrounded or that are in the riverbed, that which causes the water to change its color to become what? To be brown. This hints at the nature of the riverbed and the materials that are turned up as the water barrels down to its what? To its path. You can even say probably the water is muddy because it's mixed up with soil, and soil is also what? Brown. Now from line 6 and 8, the tone changes from appreciative tone to the tone of gloominess, which we'd also note on how he describes the movement of water. And we must realize and appreciate these changes and also note the change of tone, right? And then in this line 6, he says that turns and twinkles over the broth. Now, the word twinkle is a made-up word. He came up with this word, right? Which refers again to the movement of water. But again, the word twinkle refers to the combination of twist and winds in the when you move the foam, if not the frost, to what? To the stream. So it brings a bit of violent movement, because when there's that twisting coupled with wind, it's not a smooth flowing river or a smooth flowing water from the stream. It's now coupled with wind, which can be a bit strong and aggressive. And then as in it turns over what? Broth. In the context of the poem, broth can mean a soup. This line speaks to the color, the depth and atmosphere around the specific pool of water, right? It is dark and has the qualities of a broth, which can be a soup that is which can be dark and somehow taste bitter, because it's a soup that is made with quite a number of ingredients. Now, the beauty of nature here is not really captured, but however, the extreme change on the movement of water and the color that is compared to that of a broth with a soup can also bring forth that element of gloominess or darkness, because like I've said, normally we know that water to be clear blue. If you say this water is clear blue or sky blue, you are appreciating that water. But now the movement is no longer beautiful because it twinkles. If it's something that twinkles, come forth with wind, and then hence I've said from you will pick up that from line 6 to 8, the tone changes swiftly. Now, as I've stated that the tone has shifted to that of gloominess and despair, you look into the diction and the choice of words by Hopkins here, and then it further says that of a pool so pitch black, fell frowning. Now, fell frowning again is a word that he formed himself to further emphasize or explain the shift and the shift in the or to emphasize or to draw attention in the shift in this admiration of the lake and the water flowing. Now the pool is so the word so pitch black, fell frowning. You look into the word fell frowning. Fell frowning. The high fells, it means to seem to frown down on the pool of water. They cover it with such shade, right? Remember, we said now he shifts our attention to also the vegetations around the riverbed. They cover it with such a shade that the water seem pitch black in color, because the stream is surrounded by trees. The shade that is produced by the shade produced by the trees, indeed make the water to be what? So pitch black. But again, fell frowning. It means that around the pool of water and how they look down, casting what shadows. Now those shades contribute to the gloominess picture, that which is pitch black. That is the shade that is the color that emanates from or that is produced by the shades of the trees around around the riverbed, pardon me. Now, That also brings along the element of despair, hopelessness, or misery, or despondency, right? And would one pick up why such drastic change of emotions? It's not only a poem that celebrates the beauty of nature, it's embedded with emotions. Remember, at the end of the day, he is worried that this place called Inversnaid will one day be destroyed or be dilapidated through the evolution or the changing world. As in, I've said that this poem was written at the height of industrial revolution. And then it further says that it rounds and rounds despair to drowning. You see the choice of words, it's exactly what I've said, that the poem tone has shifted to that of despondency and hopelessness. It rounds and rounds, the movement of water moving in circular form, and also note the repetition of round and round, meaning that the movement of water. Repetition creates the image of water draining down into the pool like water draining from a bath. Alliteration of R, the spinning like water going down what a drain. Now, the word despair, alliteration D, heavy D, underlines the tone of hopelessness, as I've already said. And then personification. Now, this water is compared to somebody who is drowning, which is also adding the human quality of being in a state of despair. Now, the movement of water is no longer exciting, but now it's somehow depressing when it now rounds and rounds in a form of what despair. Bearing in mind that the lines before this one, it stated how the water was the movement of water, but also the state of water, that the appearance of water was rather pitch black. Now you connect the idea of being pitch black, which is gloominess, now to drowning, now to being in a state of despair, which ultimately drives the point of what hopelessness. And the tone changed a bit again to say, take it with a dew, dimpled with what dew. Now, not only do we have darkness formed by the shade of the trees surrounding the stream, but we also have dew, right? Now, alliteration of D sounds like drops of water falling, and then we do have enjambment. Now, the word decked, it means to sprinkle, which is a Scottish dialect word which means to water what? To water the plant. So it means that the plants around. Now, here, he shifts our focus from the flow of water into the riverbed, what surrounds the stream, what surrounds the stream, or if not the ban. It means that decked with dew, doubled with dew. Now the word decked, it means to sprinkle in Scottish, which means that the words which means to water what? The plants, right? Now we are focusing on the plants, don't be confused. And then the word doubled, it means marked with spots or rounded patches covered with spots of colors that are light or darker than the main color, right? And then here we also have alliteration, deliberate, definite sound, slows the pace down, indicating how the burn, if not the river, has lost its agency. It's no longer moving fast. It is now moving steady through heath and fairy hill scope. Now, let us check the line 10. We are still in the surrounding lines. We have shifted our focus a bit from the flow of the river, and then not only are they covered with dew. Remember, degatim is covered with dew, which are the plants around the stream, are the groins of the braes that a brook trends through. Metaphor comparing the round shades of the rocks around the waterfall to a vault of a cathedral. The stream has lost its force and is no longer roaring like a horse, like in line one. The river now treats. When you treat is when you walk slowly or you move slowly, moving slowly and carefully through the thick clumps of heather on the edges of what? On the edges of the banks. And the word groins here is also suggests the body or curve of the hillside. So this is the curve of the hillside. And the word brace, hillside along the stream. It's a hillside along the stream. The book treats where the book treats through. And as I've said earlier, there is personification. The stream is personified as pardon me, that the stream is personified as a person who's walking along leisurely or slowly. personifying it, meaning that the movement has changed from that frantic, energetic movement and roaring movement into a now a slower movement, which further capture the sprinkling of dew on the hillsides. This is enjambment connecting the former line that we have just read and this line. Again, we are still not focusing on the movement of water, but on the surroundings of the riverbed. We've got weary, heathpecks, flitches of fen, and then now metaphor, think clumps of paper. What does it mean? The word weary, resembling wire in a form and texture, and then heathpecks, clumps of heather, low evergreen shrub, which are flowers with a small bell-shaped pink or purple flowers. Here are those flowers. These are the flowers that are present at the riverside near the barn. And then characteristics of heath and moorland. And then again, we've got flitches, which means patches of twigs or clumps. And then furthermore, in the following line, we have and the bit bony ash that sits over the barn. So the bit bony ash is a type of a tree. This is the type of a tree that the poet is speaking about. And then the bit bony, it means pretty by being beaded with berries. So it means it's decorated with what? Berries. So he's making us aware or taking note of the plantation, if not vegetation, around the barn, if not around the stream. The metaphor here is that the berries here are like beads that are used to decorate because they are decorating what? The ash tree. Now, after noting all of that, the speaker has a very strong use of a rhetorical question. In line 13 to 14, it says, what would the world be once bereft? Which leaves a very concerning, I would say, concerning effect to the reader. Because when you are bereaved, it's when you are mourning somebody who has died. So he says, what will the world be like if all of this beauty, if referring to the beauty of nature, if Inversnaid in this context of the poem can be destroyed, and once bereaved, it means once we are robbed of the beauty of nature, such as Inversnaid, with a frantic moving stream that is also surrounded by this beautiful vegetation that I've just shown you, which are the flowers that are referred to as the bead bony, that are quite beautiful, decorated by the berries that are referred to as the beads metaphorically. Now, he further draws our attention to say, what will the world be? To leave us as readers with a great concern and to really think deeper about letting men destroying the beauty of nature. Now, stanza 4, repeated use of W, draws out the slow down the sound. Poet focuses attention on his appeal by slowing the lines down. Now he's going to make an appeal to us to preserve the beauty of nature that he has just presented by focusing our attention on the movement of the river. So he says that what would it be if we're to be bereaved of wet and wilderness? Remember that the highland where the stream is, it's in the wilderness. So wet in a sense that it is wet and dew there because of the water that is flowing there. And repeated the speaker plea for nature to be left alone. And he further says, oh, let them be left wilderness and wet. The repetition reflects the depth of his feeling that indeed he is infatuated with nature, and he is pleading with us to let nature be and do not disturb. We must let nature be without, and rather care for it and let it be without necessarily destroying it. So the last lines indeed show, if not they expose, how infatuated or how the depth of his admiration for nature. And then he closes the poem with an interesting line to say, long live the weeds and the wilderness yet, which in a normal context, we see the weeds as unwanted plants, but because he appreciates nature, he says, let them live. And there's that repetition of L here, which is alliterative to say long live. He pleads for nature to be left alone in a repeated despairing cry. He asks for all that is natural to be left to grow. He includes all aspects of nature, even the weeds. Now, the repetition built on another as one another remind from to say we must let the wilderness, if that wishes the nature to be, and do not temper it. Right. So in essence, Hopkins here successfully described a river rushing and roaring down the Scottish Highland of Lomond, and then the river begins in high hills and flows powerfully down over the rocks, then eases into lower land and flows gently into the lake. There are many pools and eddies filled with froth, which is called to be dark, and I said that brings the element of gloominess in the poem. And then also to note that the dew was sprinkled, which is using the word daggett, on the banks, which is the riverside beside the river, where the wild plants grow, such as heath and fen and ash. Not only did we focus or see the movement of the water, but also the vegetations around the highland of the stream. And then the last stanza is passionate plea to his fellow men to leave such wilderness and beauty alone, and let them what survive. Hopkins' language can be difficult because he is constantly experimenting with words, as I've said in the opening lines. And then the poem also uses quite an extensive use of alliteration to suggest a peaceful pool with foam, like remember using the word fleece, which is gentle and smooth, to show how the foam forms once the water has passed the river rocks to land and at the lake, only to find at a later stage the very same water can be described as pitch black because of the shade that comes from the trees around the river. Now in the second stanza, the focus switches to the stiller shallow pools. The fleece of stanza 1 is now a wind puff bonnet or a fawn froth. These are lovely examples of compound words made by the poet to describe the scene before him. The poet is, after all, trying to describe the inscape of whirlpool, and he invents new verb to describe the motion of the pool, which he says to it twinkles. And I've successfully explained the word twinkles, which is a movement that also comes with wind that can be a bit aggressive, right? And the swirling motion produces very ominous, dark emotions in the poet. The pool is now broth, which is a soup, and a pitch black soup of seething river of flood. Now, the darkness or shadows of the area also help induce a mood of despair, which is the mood of hopelessness. Right? The focus now changes to the banks of the stream and the abundance of plants and shrubs, which are trees that exist there. He uses a very precise set of words to capture the essence, if not the inscape of the gorge through which the stream is flowing. This is glorious description of nature in its wilderness, such as decked with dew, dumbled with dew, at the groins of the braes that the brook threads through, which appreciate the beautiful plants that are surrounding the riverbank. And then in the last stanza, indeed, Hopkins uses many words beginning with the letter W. This, combined with all the repetition, conveys a mood of anxiety and a pleading tone. And using a strong rhetorical question also gives a sense of its uncertainty, to say, with the world, the manner in which the world was developing and evolving, nature stand a great chance to be disturbed. Yet again, one can detect the intensity of the emotion in his pleading and his poetry. To say, Hopkins finishes with an outcry, almost calling it to say, we need to let nature be. That call is now answer to say, long live the wheat and the wilderness. Yet when you're saying long live, it means that something that will live forever, something that will be in existence forever. We can have a theme of despair, where you note all the gloominess and darkness that was created in the poem. The theme of hope, when you say long live. If you say long live, it means that you are somehow hopeful that nature will not be tempered or tampered with. Pardon me. And you can also have the beauty of nature as a theme, where he describes the movement of the river, as well as admiring the beautiful vegetation around the stream. I hope it makes sense to you, the poem Inversnaid. Thank you.